So, in our previous discussion, we mentioned about the ways of cultural research in terms of the ethnographic study and looking at folk and minor art from a purely ethnographic perspective. That included the need for explanation and also creating a framework with the multiple building blocks and also providing its researchers and the researched and the people who are the beneficiaries of this kind of studies with a right guideline for doing research and getting benefited from it in the aspect of cultural study. But the discussion are based on various sources and resources that are available and what all it includes in it. And finally, this is also a realization perhaps that the general philosophy behind it is highly pluralist in nature, that it involves a mixed method, which is also an eclectic approach at that content in its contextual core, that one cannot conduct this kind of a study with some restricted and fixed methods. Like if we feel that the empirical research from direct experience is not sufficient because the quality of imperialism is also changing, because the empirical qualities that is very direct and observation based, the observation is also prone to face the bias of the changing time. So from that perspective, the empirical changes in culture and society on living human subjects, and also secondarily that can be inviting the same human subjects to refer on how they live through the ages and make sense to such changes. And these are the things that we found from Macroby's writing from 1997 onwards. So that's a comparatively new study, but it also has its limitation. It doesn't include everything there. And also the 3 A's method that we discussed, that is very basic and all including. At the same time, it is restrictive. So there are a few other contradictions that comes into this context, that is based on the research experience, which came to be characterized and stimulated, and also they're illuminated with the outcome that is connected to the narrative quality that we discussed in our previous lecture. From there, we are again looking at the exponents who realized certain facts and went into the study in this topic with utter conviction. So to begin with, I must also go back and look at the findings from infrequent texts do not suffice anything. The thorough recognition of each individual from the beginning of 20th century who has realized the significance, appeared the aesthetic content, and contributed to the growth of practice through worthwhile research, and duly supported the tradition of Indian folk painting to bring it to the present form. And it's under a lot of global limelight, and that is the most important thing. It couldn't have been better. So art and cultural historian, namely E.B. Havel, Okakura, Kumaraswamy, Sister Nivedita, Stella Cambridge, the social worker like Kamaladevi Chattopadhyay, her greatest contribution is has to be remembered, as she's the pioneer reformer to introduce cooperative politics to cultural upliftment in the craft sector in post-independent India. She is the one to revive the weaving tradition in the post-colonial time as a post-colonial cultural policy, and it was not easy for her to fight for it. The situation was not favor. She did it with some help of the present Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, but he also had his priorities, and that was a time when it was not part of the priority of the fledgling nation who have just experienced the taste of independence. And there are policies that are also directed towards immediacy of generating revenues, because the country was not economically in a very good position, and it was very important to go to the basic necessities. So instead of looking at the richness of craft, it was very important for the people to look at the basic food, health, education. And Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay and many other at that time, but she was the pioneering guiding light for many. She simply realized that it's a time when the priorities are different, but soon the country, the nation will make up for their basic necessities, and that by that time these things will be lost forever. So she couldn't wait for it, and she did her best to at least keep it going. And because of her, perhaps that many of the weaving traditions of Eastern India that is still surviving, and also she moved to the southern part of India, and she constantly worked on the Indian textile for so long. So she is a very important name in this category, and she is important for our study because she is the one who is a visionary, who could understand all these things from a research perspective. So she could analyze the situation, and then again she put the narration in her way. She built up the story of from future to present to again going back to the past, and then that made her vision for the future much more relevant. And with that, we are the one who is getting benefited, and we can understand how India has then coped up with the economic upheaval. And also this is also for true that it was a basic turmoil that took place in the pre-colonial and of course the immediate post-colonial era, but through Indian art and craft, and also for the ethnic culture, India could generate a lot of revenue, and it's still working as a strength for us to better revenue generation if we pick up the right policy and go in the right direction. But these are the matter that is part of the government policies. The policies are often made properly, but they're not in proper hand, they're not utilized or underutilized, the funds are not properly distributed, and there are many other factors which is quite it's though not expected, but it's common for a country with such a huge population. But this is also true that these are the people who showed us the path, and then we went by that. And then I mentioned the names of B.R. Ambedkar, Mahatma Gandhi, Guru Shadar Dutt, anthropologist G.S. Ghore, also the artist, poet and writer Rabindranath Tagore, Nandalal Bose, Jamini Rai, Sunayani Devi, and also their acts of nationalist spirit that was to build up the spirit of nationalism through art and culture echoed William Morris and Okakura's initiations respectively in England and Japan. In Japan, Okakura built up a cultural center called Nippon Bijetsui, and that is one place where Japanese culture was revived. Even now when we look at the Far Eastern culture, we feel that there's a highly foreign influence that has taken place, and they're mostly American. But this is very interesting to see how Okakura tried to revive the culture, and Tagore and Shantiniketan tried to follow the same policy. And then by the publication of K.G. Subramaniam, we are highly dependent on his writing and his views on this cultural studies. His opinions, sometimes we can just take blindly, but even if we analyze them, we feel that it's very on time, and it has a sense of liberation that is working as a guiding factor. Jyotindra Jain, Komal Kothari, J. Swaminathan, Tapati Guha Thakurta, and Partha Popul Jaikar, Bhaskar Kulkarni, and Mulkraj Anand are the names that maybe I'm taking randomly, because they belong to different time, and they're the people who belong to different ages. But I took their name together because they are the same visionaries who helped this particular area of research in their own ways. They're the one to show us light, and they've worked extensively in this direction. Jyotindra Jain was instrumental in finding out people from different traditions, and also he investigated how those people are carrying it further. He also worked extensively on a contemporary folk painter who revived the urban folk art of Kalighat Pata, and the artist is Kalam Patua, and the work is highly enriching for us. And most of the writings of Mulkraj Anand and his initiatives are, he did it like his work is spreaded all throughout. We must also remember how Popul Jaikar and Bhaskar Kulkarni visited Madhubani during the time of famine, and it was a paradigm shift of the same medium that was basically initiated by the two. And there had been other people also with them. So all these exponents are very important, and we must also study their writings to understand how they visioned this entire happening, and that can work as a guiding factor for us. So we must not forget their contributions, and not only forgetting, but we must do a thorough research into that to understand what should be the steps next. So with that, we are finishing our third module and going to the fourth module to see the different zones and getting a first-hand experience of how it is happening today. It's more like experiencing a living tradition through images and information.